This is Andre Banks coming today for Banks Credit Chat discussing credit churning. Credit churning has become really popular, especially in this day and age. A lot of younger population talking about it and utilizing it as a way to earn money. Now, for those who are not aware of credit churning, it's simply the process of opening and closing credit cards with the intent to earn cash, rewards, or some kind of mileage or something in that effect. The problem is that with this, and I give out a warning for that, is that even though we live in a day and age of credit is everything, and it's not surprising to see so many different ways of making money or finding different loopholes that you can utilize with the credit system. It is still up to the banks to continue to let you operate in these fashions. And when we're having times where slowdowns come and downturns, we're experiencing now where the stock market is down, and I did a video before about systemic risk, practices like credit churning become obsolete because we got to remember that credit is not something that's always been around with us, even though it's our existence and how we operate. It's not always been given to the masses of people. And when I saw so many videos of TikTok or all these other platforms or these other people talking about this as a practice for them people to live off of, that's when it becomes extremely dangerous, especially when we're dealing with times that we're in where systemic risk is a factor. And when systemic risk comes on, banks don't want to lend to each other. Essentially, that comes down to the consumer. I shouldn't say they won't lend to each other. They become much more critical and looking at the collateral, and then that becomes down to the consumer itself and how they look at you. Not to mention, it has a negative impact. It can have a negative impact on your credit rewards because you're closing out cards, getting new cards, and you're trying to essentially manipulate the system and function in a way that can earn you money and rewards and miles and stuff like that. And that's fine if we're dealing in an age where we're in an upward market, things will continue moving in a certain way. People have the euphoria that everything's going to remain the same. But we're not moving in those times. We're coming to where we're at in the story where there's a more than likely chance, a higher probability that we're facing a global recession, and interest rates continue to go up as well as inflation. So the practice of credit churning, opening up and closing credit cards to earn money, rewards, and miles becomes less of a basis of you allowing you to do that once banks become, when they find themselves in a position where they're starting to question everything, especially for the consumer itself, and they're looking for the best candidates to give them the most amount of rewards to, not give it to everyone. So just something to be aware of, especially with credit churning practices, and when you're seeing these different things, oh, that's a way for me to make money, and not really paying attention to the economy itself and where we're at in the story in terms globally. That systemic risk is a factor. I would encourage you to look at my video on systemic risk and be mindful of practices called credit churning. Do not utilize that as a basis for you to exist. And I would be very careful when you're paying attention to people who are a little bit younger, who are just, they're doing something and they're talking about things and they have not had enough experience, especially if they're coming out and doing most of the stuff after 2008. The reason why I use 2008 as a basis, as a barrier here, or as a reference point, is because unless you were operating in to see what happened in 2008, which I experienced myself, and that changed my life dramatically, and it gave me so many open lessons, and then you find out, wow, things that I did not know, I do know now, and that's comes through hard experiences. So it's better to learn, a wise man said it's better to learn from someone else who's experienced some things and can teach you that. So just be mindful of that, especially if you're using practices called credit churning. It's very, to say it's dangerous is an understatement, especially in the time that we're living. It could put you in a bad situation, and since we still will need credit to exist, I would just want you to be cautious and be mindful of that. If this video has been any value to you, please subscribe, leave some comments. Until my next video on Banks Credit Chat, I'm out.